Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder it is time to have a look at the premium vehicles that are going to be available for Warbonds in August of 2020. There's a nice little selection here, and since the August Warbond shop has started, let's get into it. So the premium vehicles that are available are the Boomerang Mach 1, the Ki-45 High TIE, the B1 Ter, the T34 747, the HS129B2, the Romanian version, the Type 4 Model 4, the 165 feet PC466 Mk.I, and the ZUT, the ZUT37. You also have this pretty interesting stylized decal. It is incredibly simple, but it is really well made. There is something definitely about minimalistic art which I am a fan of, and I would definitely class this as it. Would love to see more pieces like this in War Thunder. There's also a bunch of test drives available and all of that wonderful stuff, but let's get into the game and see what it is looking like. One thing to also mention as well, before we start talking about the vehicles, is this month is especially special. And the reason for this is because of Operation Summer, coming on the 7th, you are going to be playing the game quite a lot anyway. In order to get all of the stars, if you're going to be grinding them out for, let's say, a specific vehicle, you need 10 stars overall, which is 20 days worth of grinding. And generally, in order to get a or generally to get one of the premium vehicles in the Warbond shop, you normally need a few more days than that, but still, you can get a big chunk into it when it comes to, you know, the Operation Summer grind. So why not try and do the Operation Summer grind along with getting some of these vehicles? You know, doing the special tasks, doing the dailies. It seems like it makes the most sense to me, so you can double dip on the whole system and come out with another premium tank on top of, you know, the vehicles that you're getting out of Operation Summer. So, as you can see, this is what the new Warbond shop is like. The old Warbond shop will be up for another 6 days if you want to get any of these vehicles here. So let's have a look at August's Warbond shop. The first thing is there's a bunch of test drives. We have the HMS Belfast, so if you want to grind out the British naval tree, this would be the one to go for. You can get a test drive for it and get some quite nice rewards on it, and basically just sit there in top tier cruisers and shoot things. Then you got the Mi-24P, which is the German attack helicopter premium. This thing does have access to some nice secondary ordnance if you want to use it. You can see here it has access to some Sturms and also access to some R60s, which should be very nice. Not as good as stuff like the K50, but overall a pretty nice little machine. Also has access to flares and all of that good stuff. Then you have the Ki-87. The Ki-87 is a Japanese fighter at 6.0. Does struggle a little bit from its engine power, but if you have a look at its general armament is very strong. It's very fun to fly, but it does fly a lot more like your non-standard Japanese fighter, meaning that the machine itself is not exactly as maneuverable as a lot of other Japanese fighters out there. So I know for a fact a lot of people don't really enjoy this vehicle too much because of the fact it's so different. So yeah, it has very good guns on it. It has, you know, it has pretty much okay everything else, but is that good enough at 6.0 when you're going to face a lot of super props? And my answer would be no. If you get down to it though, you can have a lot of fun. The G55S is also back in the test drive. This is one of the craziest machines that was ever added to the game as a premium. It's an insanely good machine, access to 320mm and access to a lot of speed, also a lot of maneuverability. This is a jack of all trades. It's as simple as that. A very, very good machine, and if you want to grind out the Italian tree, you should definitely think about picking that up. The next one is the F-89B. The F-89B is obviously the F-89 without the rockets. It's the one that you don't see as much. It's the one with the 20mm. It's still incredibly strong, you know, as a vehicle in itself. It's still incredibly fast, 477, but a lot of the times you will get up-tiered, so therefore your speed won't really mean anything, and at the end of the day, it is just a very large target to shoot at when it can't capitalize on its speed. The next vehicle that is on offer is the T34 122. This thing has obviously the 122 on the T44, so it gains a little bit of maneuverability over something like the IS-2, but the problem with it is, as with all 122s at higher BRs such as 6.3, this thing has a reload rate of 30 seconds. That's terrible. That's absolutely diabolical. That means that most machines around this level can get 3 to sometimes 4 shots off while you are reloading. That's not good enough. The armor profile on it as well is not great, especially with this driver's port here, but normally you can just shoot the turret because it's only 112mm thick, and yeah, it doesn't have any gun depression really, only -5. The only thing you get out of this vehicle is a little bit more maneuverability than an IS-2, but the IS-2 isn't exactly strong at the BR anyway. The next one is not any of them, because these are profile icons. So those are the test drives that are available. If I was going to rank them, 1 to the rest, I'd probably put the G55S first, then it would be the Belfast in second, then probably the Ki-87 in third, the Mi-24 in fourth, and then the F-89B in fifth, and the T34 122 in sixth. That's how I would see them. Then we have the Gal pinup, which for some reason you can't see, which is kind of weird. And there's also still the Battle Trophy box, which is available for everybody. And this one hasn't changed. You know, it still has that Lag 334 in it, which of course would be the wonderful prize to have. So, let's talk about the Warbond vehicles, which are, you know, obviously the premiums that are available in the system. So the Boomerang Mach 1, which is at 3.0, this machine is a lot of fun in Air Arcade. You just basically wander around, turn on a dime, and just use those 20mm to absolutely batter people. But in Air Realistic, which is my game mode, or my main game mode when it comes to air, this thing has lost a lot of power. Generally, as the game has increased, a lot of machines have been added to the low levels, which have a lot more engine power, a lot more strength than when the Boomerang would be able to take over games. And that means that you can get boom and zoomed, or just out energy forward, if I'm honest, with by Boomerangs. And, by everything else against the Boomerang, and they can just run you out of energy, especially stuff like BF-109s, especially stuff like Focke-Wulfs. And what ends up happening is you have to just defensively fly just constantly, but you don't have the same rate of climb as something like a Spitfire, so therefore you can't you can't start defensively flying in a position where you want to. Instead, you are forced into engagements which will kind of be very disadvantageous for you. But if you can force people to overshoot, you can use the 20mm really well. You only have 120 rounds, but then again, for pretty much every British vehicle at this level, you only have 120 rounds of 20. And I think that's completely fine, you know, that's enough for 3 or 4 kills if you know how to use the guns. And then it's backed up by just a ton of ammunition on the 7.7s, so you can just kind of spray and have a bit of fun with them. But the problem is whatever fight you're taking, or like 90% of the fights that you're taking in this thing, you're going to start from a disadvantageous position, and it's going to be really annoying to try and claw it back. So that is why it's not exactly easy to use this machine. The next one is the High Tai. So this is the Chinese Ki-45, and it's a conglomeration of the best parts of all the other Ki-45s. It has access to the in the nose, the 20mm, and also the 37mm. It also has access to Schrag music, which is always fun, and also the turret on the back, and quite big old engines, 975 horsepower machines. So the Ki-45s suffer because of their general offensive armaments. But the High Tie, as I said, is the one which actually combines a lot of the nice armaments. The 37mm is a hefty round, so therefore this is going to be for a bomber hunter, or this is going to be designed for something like a twin engine fighter where you fight other interceptors or fighters, and the High Tie can actually do a really good job. The Ki-45s are some of the most maneuverable twin-engine fighters in the game. They have really good rates of climb, they have a good turn rate, they have a good dive speed, they have all of the nice factors. As I said, one other thing that's limiting them is their offensive armament, and this thing with the 20mm can do a lot of damage. So, you know, obviously the Shrag music is very, very situational, but it is kind of just a nice little addition to this thing to have, and you will get some pretty cool kills with it if you learn how to use it effectively. I think this is a pretty nice pickup, especially since there aren't too many unique vehicles in the Chinese tech tree. This would be one of them. The B1 Ter is back once again, the bruiser of low tiers, Battle Racing 2.3 rank 2, and this is just an up-armored B1 bis. It's also got an extra crew member, which I think a lot of people forget about, which increases its survivability a lot because of where that crew member is sat. But from the front, the B1 Ter is very hard to pen, apart from the turret ring, which is also very hard to pen. A lot of machines at the level will struggle to pen this thing. There are some, such as the Swedish, which were recently added to the game. If they have their APDS running around, they can actually do a ton of damage to something like this. But the B1 Ter is one of the favorites of many SEAL clubbers in the game, because you can just hold W and just fire the main gun, the 47mm on the top, and just keep plinking and plonking and attacking people while angling like this, because the armor on the side of this is incredibly strong as well. Like, it's one of those machines which is designed to beat up on people who don't know how to fight it, and also because it has armor all around it, and because the French, you know, in the early years of World War II and even before, believed in this idea of having the same amount of turret armor all the way around. There isn't exactly a weak spot on this thing. It's a really, really good machine in War Thunder, and it makes up parts of a really nice lineup as well. The Crusader, the M3A3 that just got added, even the B1 bis, and stuff like the Potez on top of it. It is a lineup which is completely designed to SEAL Club. So if you like, you know, printing SL, and if you like just bullying people, I suppose the B1 Ter is the way to go. The T34 747 is also making a comeback. This is the captured T34 from the Germans, and this is part of a very annoying lineup, one of the most annoying in the game, and it is the 4-0 German captured lineup, which includes the Panzerkampfwagen Churchill, which you could have got last Warbond shop, and then you have this, the T34 747, and then the crown jewel on the top is the KV-1B, which is nigh annoying to try and stop in the game. It's pretty much one of those tanks that you just hold W and just go forward, and a lot of people don't know how to deal with you, so you just kill them all. The T34 747 offers a very nice 76mm on top of the speed, and also a little bit of confusion because of the fact that it is, of course, one of these vehicles which is captured for Germany. It's a simulator battle and a realistic battle annoyance, and also they decided to add a skin to it, which makes it pretty much exactly like the Soviet one, where you can just push up the sides of this, and it looks exactly like the Soviet, T34. I don't know how this actual camouflage got passed, because it just makes it really hard to work out what you're fighting. So yeah, it's a really good machine. It just like any T34, it has pretty much everything you want. It has mobility, it has a good gun, the survivability is okay, I suppose. Like, it has, you know, some interesting bounce points on the front of it and also in the turret. The other thing to also mention about it is it doesn't have a ton of gun depression, so that's a bit of a problem. That's a downside of the T34s, but it's not, you know, everything else is positive. So if everything else is positive and you only have one negative, then that to me is a good time. Then you have the HS129B2 Romania. This is, of course, I believe, the one from the Italian tech tree. And what you get from this is a pretty solid ground pounder. It's something that you can just kind of line up and just make SL in, because you have this HVAP belt, this 30mm. If you take this into aerialistic with this loadout, with the 30mm as a secondary, you can pop medium tanks, you can pop heavy tanks, you can pop light tanks, and with 100 rounds, you can easily clean up, 10 to 20 AI ground targets, and you can just print SL. Now, the Duck overall is not a very good vehicle. It doesn't have, great engines. It doesn't have great maneuverability. So you kind of need a superiority to be useful in a game mode like Ground Realistic. Otherwise, you're just going to get hunted down really quickly and going to die. But it does have the penetration on its 30mm to do a lot of damage to ground vehicles in general. It's just one of those vehicles which does have the ability to take over the game, but it needs very specific circumstances to do it, and the majority of the time you're not going to meet them, because you basically need no AA, you need no enemy air, and you also need like clear runs of the battlefield at least 2 or 3 or 4 times, and you can easily take out 2 or 3 tanks if you're good enough. So it runs really well with the Leoncellos as well, and the Contrario, I believe it is, which is at 3.3. So it fits snug into one of the lineups that Italy has, but just understand that with this vehicle, you need very specific circumstances to make it work, or you're just gonna die. The next vehicle is the Type 4 Model 4. This is one that keeps coming back into the Warbond shop, and it is a premium rank 1 naval boat. It's nice to see naval get a nod in this, and it's also nice to see helicopters get a nod in it with the test drives. This has access to 220mm on the back, and also obviously the engines on the top, which is kind of fun. You don't normally see that with most of the other boats when it comes to naval. One thing to mention about these 20mm though, because of the way that they're set up, because you have this area here, you can't shoot them forward. Instead, you can only really shoot them from the sides, so therefore you have to turn the boat at like this angle to be able to shoot ahead of you, and it can be kind of annoying to deal with it. And this gun can't shoot backwards, so yeah, you have a lot of issues of getting the guns on target in this machine. Even though you do kind of float across the water and you do it at a pretty decent speed, there are plenty of other machines which do it faster than you, and plenty of other machines that will just outrun you and outgun you, that it is really annoying to play this thing. So I would definitely say this is a weak one overall. The next one is the 165-footer PC-466 Mk.I. This is a battle boat, I suppose you'd call it. It has 2 3-inches on it, and also 2 20mm. So the 3 inches, they don't hull break stuff, so you're going to have to shoot a target maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times to kill it, depending on how much crew they have and how much survivability they have. But overall, the fire rate on this 76s or the 3 inches is okay. It's not the end of the world if you don't land like 1 or 2 shots. It does have like the nice different ammunition points, but I don't know why you'd use any of these. I think you just stick with the HE, and then maybe run some HEVT, just in case you want to try and take out some planes, because this thing is absolutely massive. The main reason why the Mk.I can be good in some scenarios, like at its tier, because if it gets up tiered, it just gets killed very, very quickly. But the Mk.I actually has really good survivability for 2.0. It has 65 crew, and they're actually pretty decently laid about the place. So killing these things can be really annoying, especially if you just go front first, because you can get the 3-inch gun on and just keep bapping it, and then the enemies can only see this. So you're not really going to be able to kill, a Mk.I just from the front. You have to get on the side and rat-a-tat it across the way. So it is a machine which has good survivability. It lacks a little bit in the firepower department and obviously the speed department, since the majority of machines you're going to be facing are PT boats which are a lot faster than you. But it is pretty fun facing this thing against the Soviet machines, which are very similar to it. And then we have the last one, the Zut. The Zut is the worst AA in the game. I mean, it might not be the worst, but it's the worst by BR. The ZUT-37 is a tank destroyer in all but name. It's a rank 2 2.7 machine, has access to a 37mm and a really, really small clip. So this thing has access. It says that it has access to 200 rounds, right? Which is fair, but it doesn't have any turret rotation. It doesn't have any gun depression. It doesn't have a large clip. Like it struggles in pretty much every way as an AA. So you can see here's the plane coming along, and this is the turret rotation of the ZUT. As you can see, it doesn't really elevate while you turn the machine either. So yeah, we can't keep up with the plane. So you have to like do this, and then you can get the gun on target with its turret rotation. And then you realize you only have a clip of 5, and you can hardly do anything to the enemy. So yeah, this is a tank destroyer. The ZUT is a 2.7 tank destroyer. It's not an AA. It's just one of those machines that you have because it's kind of part of War Thunder's history. But it isn't a good machine at all. It's a pretty terrible machine actually. And yeah, I wouldn't bother with it. It has no survivability. It has a clip size of 5. Its reload, I suppose, is okay, but it has no turret rotation. It has no real maneuverability. It has no real anything going for it, apart from the fact that, it is, as I said, a part of War Thunder's stuff, because it's been around for such a long time. So if I was going to rank these vehicles, 1 to 7, I think it is, the B1 Ter comes in number 1, easily. It's the best vehicle out of the bunch. Then number 2 is the T34 747. Number 3 is the Ki-44 45 High Tie. Then, of course, the Mk.I comes in. Then the Boomerang, the Type 4 Model 4 after that, and then the ZUT is the worst out of the bunch. So, yeah, it's kind of as simple as that. I can't wait to see more B1 Ters on the battlefield next month. It's going to be absolutely crushing to new players. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Battling Bacon, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Universe, Eugens Terry, and also I'm Devilish and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.